has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Yeah, the one, the only Sportcat. I'm here. I'm exhausted. We had a great show last night. I was up late, so I want to thank everybody that did stay tuned in because we had actually just an awesome show. So I'm exhausted today, but it's for a good reason. So everybody come on over and join our chat on the Paranormal Guys. Paranormal Guys with a Z. Just search out Sportcat shows. Find us over here. Join our wonderful chat. We have a host of beautiful, wonderful people. Denise is here. Hey, Wendell, you're here today. Great. Yes, it really was, Denise. It really was. So Wendell says his buddy didn't hang around long, and I didn't either after your guest came on because she made up everything she knew about the Fae. Well, Wendell, that's why it's called fiction. So, and Chris says the performance in Butler, Pennsylvania by the Secret Service would lead me to believe the overall political views of the unit have shifted some since his departure. I would agree. So, and yes, it was, Chris. It was great. It was. Well, by the way, welcome to the show. And hello, KG. Welcome. If KG, if you didn't hear the last hour and a half ish of the show, you need to go back and listen to it. Wow, it was great. We got into topics, everything from current world events to 9/11 to PTSD to public safety to music. We were kind of all over the place. It was a great show. I got to go back and edit the audio a little bit, and then I'm gonna I'll put it out over FM radio because I'm gonna have to cut the first hour out. So, but that's okay. We had fun with it. You can still find that part live. Brenda was here. I don't know where she is. Brenda needs to get in my chat. Brenda, where are you? I'm gonna message her and tell her get in my chat. We miss you. Yeah, it was a great show. It really was. And so today's show is going to be great too. Wendell says, I want to learn more about the Fae and the elementals. Well, Wendell, I'm looking for some people to do that very thing. So we will satisfy your thirst for knowledge. So let's see. What are we doing here? I want to say thank you to everybody in Australia on Right Talk Radio. I'm sorry, on Dare Talk Media. We had a great show last night. We were having a great show today. We're on Radio X in Australia. Thank you for allowing us to tickle your ears this morning. Chris says, first hour had huge Misfits vibe. Yes, it did. I needed the laugh. I needed the giggles that we had. So it was great. It was great. Well, what button do I want to push? I think I want to push this button right now. And right now, currently on the East Coast, it is 1:25. That's 13:25 if you're talking military. Good morning to you in Honolulu at 7:25, Anchorage 9:25, LA 10:25, Denver 11:25, Chicago, good afternoon, Chris. It's lunchtime for you. And over with our friends in Australia, it is 1:26 a.m. tomorrow in Perth. And oh man, Usia, I'm doing it wrong. Sorry. I even looked it up on AI how to pronounce it. It's 2:11 a.m. Welcome to Darwin, 2:56. Sydney, 3:26 a.m. Lord, how it is 3:56. You're the oddball. So in Bermuda, it's 2:26 a.m. And in London, it is, I don't know what the hell time it is in London. I lost it. So it's 6:26 a.m. or p.m. tomorrow or today. Where am I? What's going on? I don't know what's going on. So Brenda, hello. Welcome, Brenda. Welcome. So good morning. There is our time zones for today. And we were just going to get on and enjoy the show. Let's see. Let me X out of this here, find another screen, and we will start off talking about some history and go from there. And Chris says, I wish I had a photo of my dwarf friend doing cartwheels to send Denise. I wish you did too. I would love to see that. The weird thing is we could probably go on and AI and tell it to put a dwarf doing AI or doing Cartwheels. Good Lord, I'm brain cramp on your lawn. So we could probably do that. Actually, messaged her last night. I'm going to get her book and read it. It's a great book. All of you all should go check out her book. So I suspect by the way she told her tale that the character was a badass. Well, I think it was a fictional autobiography. So all right, so today in history, today is August 28th. We're going to go back in time to 1189 to the Third Crusade. Crusaders begin the siege of Acre under would that be Esri? Esri under Guy of Lusignan. Chris, I'm just going to start skipping words. 1207, King John of England grants small town of Liverpool a charter, which is a right to elect a mayor and alderman. 1609, English explorer Henry Hudson is the first European to sail into Delaware Bay. I think I can pronounce Bay. Delaware Bay, naming it South Bay. He looks just like the Notre Dame. Oh my God. I used to know a guy like that. 1830, the first American-built locomotive, the Tom Thumb, raises a horse-drawn car from the Stockton and Stokes Stagecoach Company to Baltimore in Ellicott Mills. Due to mechanical problems, the horse won. Wow. In 1845, Scientific America magazine publishes its first issue. And in 1963, Martin Luther King delivers the I Have a Dream speech during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedoms Civil Rights March at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. 1956, the 17th Venice Film Festival opens. No Golden Lion awarded. 1965, Bob Dylan is booed for playing electric guitar during a concert at Forest Hills Tennis Stadium in Queens, New York. Why was he booed? 1972, Soviet gymnast Olga Korbut becomes a media darling at the Munich Olympics, winning gold in the team all-around, followed by 2 individual golds and a silver. All right, we're going to go back to 1774. Saint Elizabeth is born. Elizabeth Ann Seton, I don't even know, who will later become canonized as a saint, is born in New York City. She was the first American-born person beatified by the Roman Catholic Church. Elizabeth was raised Episcopalian, but she joined the Catholic Church in 1805, took her vow of chastity in 1809. She later founded the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph and dedicated the latter part of her life to establishing Catholic institutions in the United States. They set up many hospitals. 1879, Zulu King Cetshwayo is captured. The last great ruler of Zululand in southern Africa, King Cetshwayo is captured by the British after his forces are defeated in the British-Zulu War. It was his resistance to British rule in Africa that led Britain to invade earlier that year. He refused to disband his troops when ordered. After thousands of casualties on both sides, the British captured the king and sent him to exile, where he would later die in 1884. 1955, Emmett Till is lynched while visiting family members in Mississippi. 14-year-old Emmett Till is brutally murdered for allegedly whistling at a white woman. The woman's husband and brother forced Till to carry a 75-pound fan to the Tallahatchie River, then beat him, gouged out his eye, shot him in the head, tied his body to the fan with barbed wire, threw him in a river. Wow. Till's mother later requested an open casket funeral so the world could see what had been done to her son. Horrible. That's horrible. 1963, we talked about the speech, I Have a Dream. It's a great speech in front of 250,000 people in Washington, D.C. They come together from around the country to demand equal rights for Black Americans, to end segregation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed the following year, The march is considered a landmark moment in the civil rights movement. 1984, Elizabeth Fritzl goes missing from her home in Austria. 18-year-old Elizabeth goes missing from her home in Austria. The truth of her whereabouts was much darker. After building a secret chamber in his basement, her father, Joseph, locked her in. She would spend the next 24 years there, subjected to horrendous sexual abuse and forced to carry her father's children. She would birth 7 children while locked in the chamber. After one of the children became ill, Joseph allowed her to go with them to the hospital. While there, she told authorities of her abuse. He was arrested and sentenced to life in prison. That was too good of a sentence for him. 2003, Brian Wells enters a PNC bank in Erie, Pennsylvania with a bomb strapped to his chest. He's also known as the Pizza Bomber. He robs a PNC bank in Erie, Pennsylvania with a bomb strapped to his chest. Although he died surrounded by police that day, the robbery kicked off a much larger investigation into who masterminded the robbery and why, setting the stage for Netflix docuseries Evil Genius. Wasn't he the one that he didn't have any control of the bomb? Somebody forced him to do it. So let's see. Oh, Denise. And Brenda says she's afraid of little people. So if dwarfs come to get you, you won't know what to do. And Denise says, I don't know why I'm laughing. If I keep shrinking, I'll be a dwarf. Brenda says, if I lose my other leg, I will too. Chris says, in high school, he made us all laugh in gym when we asked our height and weight for the first day. He said he was 6'8" and 350 pounds. Oh, that's great. Well, at least he had a sense of humor. He didn't take any offense to people. All right. We're going to look at the almanac for today, August 28th. And good Lord. Today is the 240th day of 2025 and the 70th day of summer. Today in 1867, the United States took possession of the Midway Atoll. 1955, we talked about Emmett Till. 1963, Martin Luther King gave the famous speech. 1968, protesters fought with police at the Democrat National Convention in Chicago. 1996, Prince Charles and Diana formally divorced. Today's birthdays, well, it's Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, he's the author. Bruno Bettelheim, a psychologist. Jack Kirby, oh, he wrote comics, I remember him. Donald O'Connor, he was an actor. Ben Gazzara, an actor. Lou Piniella, baseball player. Louis Guzman, he's an actor. Scott Hamilton, we know him as a figure skater. David Fincher, a film director. Shania Twain, well, she's a famous singer. Jack Black, well, he's an actor. He's a pirate. Leanne Rimes and Quizale Wallace. I have no idea. She's an actor, actress, and author. Today's fact, the first issue of the Scientific American was published in 1845. Today in sports in 1977, Brazilian soccer superstar Pelé played in his last competitive game. His New York Cosmos team defeated the Seattle Sounders 2-1 for the National American Soccer League Championship. A quote from Jack Kirby for today. The only real politics I knew was that if a guy liked Hitler, I'd beat the stuffing out of him, and that would be it. Today's number, 2.4 square miles of land that make up the Midway Atoll. Today, well, it's between a new moon and the first quarter moon. So there you go. That's your almanac update. Let's see what today in National Days is. It's Cracker Over the Keyboard Days. What the heck is that? We're going to have to check this one out. Crackers Over the Keyboard is celebrated with the enthusiasm every year today. The snack is so humble yet so versatile. It does not matter whether you eat them plain or with dips. They're equally delicious. Now, on this day, you can eat them without worrying right over your keyboard while working. Don't worry if you're a clean freak. You can simply dust off your keyboard and get rid of the crumbs after you've had your snack. Disagree. Do not do that over your keyboard. So crackers are good, but not over the keyboard. So, all right, let's continue onward. It's Emirati Women's Day, International Cabaret Day, National Bow Tie Day. Wendell, do you own a bow tie? National Burger Day. Man, I could go for a burger today. National Cherry Turnover Day. I love them. Power Rangers Day. Race the Mouse Around the Icons Day. All right, we're going to have to figure that one out. And Rainbow Bridge Remembrance Day. So, Race Your Mouse Around the Icons Day, taking place every year on August 28th, is copyrighted holiday developed by wellcat.com. The goal is to give individuals a chance to experiment with the mouse and cursor. In essence, it allows the user to express their frustration while working or enjoying the computer. If you're a pro at racing your mouse around symbols, you get to celebrate the wacky holiday every day. But for those who aren't, it's a once-a-year opportunity. Okay, that seems kind of weird to me, but whatever. So, whatever. To each their own. All right, let's see. National Thoughtful Day, National Red Wine Day. We talked about Power Rangers. They have their own day. Bow Tie Day and Rainbow Bridge Day and Cherry Turnover Day. Let's look at birthdays today. See how many more names I can screw up here, guys. Elizabeth Ann Seton, the founder of the country's she founded a school. Matilda Howe, the Olympic gold medal winner in archery. Jack Dreyfus, founder of the investment company known as the Dreyfus Corporation. Nancy Culp, fondly remembered for her role in Miss Hathaway in the Beverly Hills. William Rudder, a biochemist. Roxy Roker, an actress who played the sassy character Helen Willis on The Jefferson. Jack Black, well, we know who he is. And then we have memorable event, 1609, the Delaware Bay was discovered. We talked about the magazine being published. 1884, the first known photograph of a tornado is taken near Howard, South Dakota. 1907, the UPS service is founded by James E. Casey in Seattle, Washington. 1965, the first Subway shop opens in Bridgeport, Connecticut. But it was much better sandwiches than today. 2022, a 1952 Mickey Mantle card sells for $12.6 million at auction. Chris, was that you that bought that? That's a lot of money. So, oh, wait a minute. I accidentally put this in here. What is this? Oh, that's right. Because it's opening weekend. That's the Tennessee Vols colors this weekend against Syracuse. So there you go. I must have snuck that in there for Bobby. Yeah, I don't know where Wendell is. He must have left. Chris says that advice sounds like it come from the keyboard industry who's just trying to generate additional sales once crackers are wedged in the old one. Agreed. We don't need that. So, wrong button. But there you go. If you're ready for college football opening weekend, it is upon us. Actually, I think it was last weekend, but they didn't have any good games. So, all right. So I'm not going to go into this one a lot because there's so much to process here about the Minnesota shooting. I'm just going to go over this article. This is from Just the News, and here's what we know about the Catholic Church tragedy yesterday, right after we went live, that killed 2 children. We know the FBI is investigating as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics, and they're going to continue to provide updates for us as they go along. They're also going to continue to scrub some data too. So I don't know if anybody caught that online. That's why I'm not going to show any pictures unless they're in one of these news sources, and I'm not going to talk about some of the other things, but we're going to have to touch on them because I think this is more about a mental health issue than it is about a gun crisis. The FBI said on Wednesday that it's investigating the shooting in Minneapolis as domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics, and that the person responsible is a transgendered person, born a male but self-identified as a female. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that the alleged mass shooter responsible for the killing of the 2 children and injuring 17 others at a Minneapolis Catholic church has been identified as Robin Westman, who was born Robert Westman. The suspect is deceased, reportedly by a self-inflicted GSW. The FBI is investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and hate crime on all Catholics, according to the FBI director. They're going to keep updating us on what we know. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said at a news conference that officers responded just before 8:30 a.m. to a shooting at a mass at Annunciation Catholic Church during the students' first week of school. During the mass, the gunman approached the outside of the building, began shooting at the church windows, striking children and other worshipers at the mass. Law enforcement said they believe the shooter acted alone and that there is no active threat to the public. So here's what we know about the subject. He's been identified as Robin Westman. He was born Robert Westman, but legally changed his name in 2020, according to the New York Post. His mother actually went to court and helped him with that. She enabled it. It was not immediately clear why he changed his name. Police officials said his mother used to work at the church until she retired in 2021. He was equipped with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. The shooter also intended to shoot as many children as he could and express admiration for other mass shooters, including Sandy Hook and many others. A manifesto obtained by the New York Post goes into better detail. I have a deep fascination with one man in particular, Adam Lanza. He wrote in the manifesto on 23 May, Sandy Hook was my favorite. I think exposure of school shootings. O'Hara said the suspect was not previously known to law enforcement and died on the scene from what appeared to just like that. I get booted. Am I still alive? Is everybody still with me? Jeez. Start talking about this stuff and you suddenly get kicked. So hopefully it looks like I'm still going out. So, oh man, you start talking about this and suddenly you just mysteriously disappear from the screen. How's that possible? I don't know. So we'll go back and say the suspect was not known to law enforcement, died on the scene from what appeared to be self-inflicted gun. They call them magazines, but I believe their technical term is also clips, were found on the site with words on them, written upon them, painted upon them. One said, "For the children," and others said, "Kill Donald Trump." A local CBS News reporter said that the suspect was a transgender who was born male but identified as female, but just the news has not independently confirmed that. It's been confirmed. A total of 17 people were injured in the shooting, consisting of 15 children, 2 adults. The children's ages range from 6 through 16 and are being treated at local hospitals. At least 7 are in critical condition. 2 people who died were also children aged 8 and 10. The identities have not been released of those victims. So, yeah. And I think I've read in another article, I read a lot of articles to get to this. I read in another article that the person felt like they were, what is the correct word? Not forced, but the media and social media with the way they leaned made them into what they were, and they hated it. So it sounds as though it was a tormented soul and had a severe mental health problem. And apparently no one noticed it. Yes, I'm glad y'all are here. Thank you. And yes, Chris writes, yes, the media totally plays off the fact this person idolized another mentally ill person who became an infamous killer, thanks to the media giving him 24/7 coverage. Agreed. That's another reason I don't want to really go into it, but it was definitely, in my opinion, this is my opinion only. If I get kicked again, we'll know why. But I think it was a mental health issue. And we've already seen from both Republicans and Democrats the jump to it's the guns. Well, I'm pretty sure there's millions of guns that have sat in people's closets for many of years and hasn't went off and killed people. So it's not a gun problem. It's a mental health problem that society needs to address. We need to get some people some help rather than coddle them. So, all right. So this article comes from Distractify. And, well, I don't know, probably a science fiction piece, but let's see. A woman predicts Donald Trump is going to die on September 3rd. About her, it says about, but I wonder if that should be after her premonition. And she says her premonitions are never wrong. A woman on TikTok, who people are dubbing a psychic, claims she has a premonition on August 25th, 2025, that President Trump will die on September 3rd at 10 a.m. or p.m. She wasn't really sure. It's a bold claim and should not exactly, though not exactly shocking these days, since predicting Trump's fate has become a popular theme online. For example, just a day before Husky Mama's video about Trump's alleged September 3rd death surfaced, a physical therapist went on TikTok offering a diagnosis claiming the president has congestive heart failure and chronic kidney disease. He also predicted he has between 6 and 8 months to live. Well, there's one thing about Husky Mama's post that really stands out, and some people might be missing it. Let's dive into her premonition about Trump's health and the oversight you may have overlooked. Husky Mama opens her video still clearly in bed, just having woken up. She took to TikTok to share the premonition she said she had in her dreams that night, explaining that this is when she experiences them. According to her premonition, revealed that Donald Trump is going to die on 3 September at 10 a.m. or p.m. She wasn't quite sure, but it would happen during the day or night, or even if it would be U.S. time on her own time, based on her accent, maybe Iceland. She also didn't specify the year, which means it could be 2025 or 2040. So she's not real accurate there. She didn't hit a bullseye. Anyway, she insists her premonitions are never wrong and claims he will die of a heart attack. It actually signs somewhat with the physical therapist predictions, who said he has CHF. So a heart attack could make sense. That diagnosis is accurate. Husky Mama also went on to say she wanted to put it out there, which she was on TikTok. So you heard it first. She adds that anyone who follows her for a while knows she has had some success with past premonitions, and claims her nickname in school used to be Mystic Meg. Okay, then. But here's the catch. It seems Husky Mama might be toying with viewers' emotion. It took the extra step to expand the caption on her video. It reveals just a skit. Well, actually, Hal, if he does die on September 3rd, for all you Trump lovers, don't worry, it's just a skit. But anyways, after putting my Monjaro prices, whatever the hell that is, bring the hate. So whether she made the video to jump on the less diagnosed Trump trend because she's genuinely upset about the rising Monjaro prices, which apparently is a medication used to treat weight loss and type 2 diabetes, with production sites in the U.S., is up for debate. What's not up for debate, though, is September 3rd date prediction. Well, will this affect the Wednesday season 2 premiere? I don't know what the hell that shows is. So while Husky Mama may or may not have psychic abilities, I didn't scroll through all of her content to find out. At least we know it's videos for shits and giggles, because she clearly labeled it as a skit. Well, I'm sure she's probably going to get a visit, so probably should. Let's catch up in the head. Yes, I do too, Denise. I do too. So, and Brenda says, well, he seems fine to her. And Denise says her as well. And Chris says she could say this, but remember, it was Trump saying protesters peacefully on J6. That was the watch that. Hold on. We're going to try this again, Chris, so don't misquote you. She could say this, but remember, it was Trump saying protest peacefully on J6. That was the dog whistle being put out there as a subliminal message. So, and Denise says it is a shot for weight loss. So, all right. Well, We'll see, and I'm pretty sure she's going to get a visit. If not, she should. And this is an article that it just isn't making a lot of traction because they want to bury this as well. And I've seen actual clips from the press conference, so this is a thing. From Just the News, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, she's a Democrat, said that she, quote, greatly appreciated federal officers assisting the city's police in cracking down on crime. We greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what the Metropolitan Police Department has been able to do in this city, she stated during her Wednesday press conference. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is that the area of crime that was most troubling for us way back in 2023, we have now driven it down over the last years. But for carjacking, the difference between 20 a day period during this federal surge last year represents an 87% reductions in carjackings. We know that when carjackings go down, we know that when carjacking goes down, when the use of guns goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason, she added. President Trump earlier this month implemented a federal takeover of the city's law enforcement, sending federal officers and National Guard to assist Metropolitan Police in stopping crime and arresting criminals. Robberies have dropped by 42% during the first 2 weeks of the crackdown, according to the DC Police Union on Monday. So it appears that the mayor actually appreciates it, unlike other headlines are saying it. So Wendell went to Burger King. Did you get me a burger, Wendell? And what Brenda say? Oh, she's okay. Wendell, why are you worried about Denise's pants? Sometimes you puzzle me. All right. Well, this is an interesting story here because, well, it's a senator calling for more military in Alaska after NORAD detects Russian aircraft near U.S. airspace. Alaskan Republican Senator Dan Sullivan on Wednesday called for a stronger military presence in his home state after NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, detected a Russian plane in Alaskan airspace. NORAD said the plane was flying in the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone on Tuesday and did not actually penetrate United States sovereign airspace. The military confirmed the aircraft was Russian after sending an E-3, 2 F-16s, and 1 KC-135 to positively identify. Sullivan said the incident marked the 5th detection of a Russian surveillance plane, but the military has only confirmed 4 Russian aircrafts in Alaskan space this week. Alaska is on the front line. We must strengthen our military with Alaska as the cornerstone, the senator wrote on X. From the Golden Dome missile system and reopening Naval Base Adak to jumpstarting shipbuilding and the historic investments in our Coast Guard, the One Big Beautiful Bill delivers. NORAD documented other encounters with Russian aircrafts last Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. They said such activity by the Russians in Alaska is a regular occurrence. It is not seen as a threat. And I can say I remember this going back all the way when I used to listen to shortwave radio. You could hear the fighters and, well, you know, they would talk back and forth, and it made for great air traffic. So, but that was when we used to have aircraft in the air 24/7, 365, which we're kind of going back to, not 100%, but we're pretty close. Well, NATO warns Russia, we see you, after a threatening submarine surge. At least a dozen specialist NATO warplanes have been launched to search for a Russian submarine suspected of threatening an American aircraft carrier. A dozen NATO specialist warplanes have been dispatched to hunt for a Russian submarine believed to be menacing an American aircraft carrier The UK, US, and Norway have all sent their submarine hunting P-8 Poseidons over the Norwegian Sea in what appears to be a search for a rogue Russian sub. The aircraft are thought to have completed 27 sorties in less than 48 hours since Sunday evening. This comes as the USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, and her strike group reportedly conducted training exercises with the Norwegian Navy in the North Sea. The UK Minister of Defense has confirmed that the Royal Air Force's involvement was not part of an exercise, according to The Sun, and a defense source described the mission as a highly unusual surge. Former Royal Navy Commander Tom Sharp told the newspaper, "It looks like they have found a Russian sub and they are hammering it. It is telling Russia, we see you." We believe that the Royal Air Force carried out 8 P-8 Poseidon flights from the Royal Air Force Louismouth over the waters. The UK owns 9 of these aircraft, which specialize in anti-submarine warfare and maritime surveillance, and equipped with sonobuoys for submarine detection and torpedoes. The Sun reports that America used a base in Iceland for the suspected submarine search, while at least 2 Poseidons were deployed from Sicily, Norway, also 3 from an Arctic Circle base. The aircraft, modeled after the Boeing 737-800, allegedly switched off their transponders. And if you remember, we talked about a couple days ago, the P-8s were up and down both coastlines, and we could see them, which means their transponder was on. They wanted us to know they were there, and they wanted someone else to know they were there. So these, however, flipped that switch. The transponders went off, hid their location from other pilots as they neared the search area. However, flight tracking websites revealed that a Royal Air Force Poseidon spent hours circling over a specific region in the Norwegian Sea. And a Minister of Defense spokesperson previously told the Express the UK's P-8s work continuously on operations protecting national interests and keeping the UK and her allies safe. For security reasons, we will not comment on the operational details. And the one circling was actually probably a tanker fueling the jets. They're allowed to turn off their transponder if they're not fueling, but I think they have to turn them on when they're fueling. So, and yes, Brenda, you kept me up late. It was all your fault. No, it was a great show. And then I had to go record the Thin Line Rock Station, which I'm live over there now spinning records. So, Chris, this wasn't the Gerald Ford considered to be kind of a bumbling idiot. Why would you want to name your top of the line aircraft carrier after a clumsy clod? Chris, wait, the next line carrier might be named the James Slow Joe. It's like naming shoes after Biden. Actually, if you look at history, and it's a funny statistic, a funny fact, President Ford, though he was never officially elected, he went down in history as being one of the best presidents because, well, he didn't do anything. He got the keys to the office, went in and sat down and pretty much didn't do anything from there. So you can't mess up much if you don't do much. So I'm trying to remember how long he was in office, but yeah, he just basically took the keys to the office and said, "Hey, I'm putting my feet up. Here I am." So, all right. So this comes from the U.S. edition of the Daily Mail. It's like naming a think tank after Biden. Agreed. Yeah, the Biden think tank. Mysterious mutant blobs spotted in America's waterways spark fears of parasitic outbreaks. Brenda, what have you done? A wave of floating blobs has appeared throughout U.S. waterways, leaving some swimmers and boaters fearful that these could be giant marine parasites. The gelatinous object have been called cursed gummy bears. mutant brains, and even sci-fi nightmares as more and more people come across them in freshwater ponds, lakes, and rivers. Despite to growing the size of a human brain, wildlife officials said there's absolutely no cause for alarm. Oh, you can trust the government. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, they're a colony of tiny creatures that form a magnificent bryozoan, officially known as the something magnifica. The bryozoan is composed of thousands of animals called zooids that stick together as one big squishy blob. They've been spotted in places like the Pacific Northwest, including the Nisqually Wildlife Refuge Complex in Washington, but they're common in many other areas, including the Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, and the Great Lakes. The Park Service shared a close-up picture of them, the large bryozoan discovered in Lake Huron near Michigan on August 17th, while ensuring that there's no cause for panic if you spot one of these blobs floating near you. More off, the colony of creatures does not carry a virus like other wildlife this year. They're actually helping keep America's waterways clean and healthy. So there you go. So if you see a blob, these ancient creatures breathe life into fresh water, capturing plankton and cleaning the water as they drift in slow-moving rivers and lakes, the forestry official said. Each zooid is smaller than a grain of rice. Thousands of these creatures build a soft, fragile structure using calcium carbonate, kind of like a delicate skeleton that gives it a transparent look, which feels like a squishy sponge or gummy candy. You're most likely to see these blobs in late summer or early fall, when the colonies can grow quite large and noticeable in ponds and lakes. In the fall, they create tiny seed-like structures called statoblasts that sink to the bottom of these water waves to survive in the winter. In spring, the statoblasts wake up and start new colonies. Wildlife officials noted that these microscopic survival pods can withstand freezing, drying, and even time itself because of their tough outer coating. Each keeps them safe and lets them stay dormant until conditions improve. Despite their odd appearance, bryozoans are not considered dangerous to humans and don't carry viruses or harbor disease-carrying pests like other animals, raising concerns this year. As for the magnificent bryozoan, they've been around for about 480 million years, making them an ancient part of nature's cleanup crew. The colonies can carry pretty large, even sometimes up to a foot. They start small but expand as many more join the group, forming the big blob-like structure swimmers have been seeing this summer. So there you go. The magnifica is the most common bryozoan in the U.S., but wildlife officials have noted that there are thousands of bryozoan species living in freshwater environments throughout the world. Although the blobs aren't native to some areas of the U.S., like the Pacific Northwest, they've been brought there in a number of ways, including insides of stomachs of birds such as ducks or geese, or by getting carried along with fish or water plants that people move to new lakes or ponds. Over the years, environmental officials across the U.S., from Ohio to Missouri, have added on social media that if you see a bryozoan, leave it alone and let the colony do its job. For those out in the water and find one that's attached itself to a boat, they urge boaters to be extremely careful. If you spot one on your boat or near your dock, don't remove it unless necessary. If you do remove one, carefully scrape it off so you don't end up harming the invertebrates. KY3 reported after speaking with the Missouri Department of Conservation. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, me reading the stories. Yeah. Hold on, I got to go back. Apparently it was, naming shoes. I think that, yeah. Oh, yes, my sugar is low, I think so. And Brenda says, I saw the blob kill it. It will it will only become a cause for alarm to our government if the pharmaceutical industry can find a way to generate another preventative vax for it. Nobody has seen a brizone as magnificent as these, big and beautiful. uh, Many people talk about these. All right, well, let's skip to aliens. We go from blobs to aliens. Pentagon, oh, well, we know this is an official source, detects 8,000 mysterious UFO orbs over U.S. military bases in unnerving mystery. This comes to us from the Daily Express U.S. A report from crowdsourced UFO spotting website reveals hundreds of reports of strange metallic orbs out in the night sky above the United States. Be careful. A new report from a crowdsourced UFO sighting app found that among the hundreds of reports of unidentified metallic orbs between 2022 and 2025, the majority were spotted in the dead of the night near military installations in California, New York, and Arizona. Enigma, which allows users to report their own UFO sightings, logged more than 8,000 reports in the U.S. between December of 2022 and June 20 of 25. According to the report, of these 422 described the presence of a metallic orb, the majority of which were observed between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. within 5 miles of a military base. Investigating such mysterious flying objects is the work of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Research Office. Well, that's a bunch of names, which logged 757 cases between May of 2023 and June of 2024, according to the office's annual report. 20 of these cases were classified as unresolved sightings. Of the 422 metallic orbs reportedly spotted by Enigma users, 360 of them were seen near bases such as Fort Hamilton in New York, Papago Military Reserve in Arizona, and Los Angeles Air Force Base in California. While classic disc-shaped UFOs dominated mid-20th century sightings, orb-shaped UAPs have emerged as one of the most frequently reported modern phenomena on Enigma. The report said often spotted at high altitudes near sensitive infrastructure, these orbs are described as hovering silently or darting across the sky at impossible speeds. You can see there's a map there. I wish I could make this bigger, but you can look and see most of the sightings. There's very few in the south except for down in Florida, really. Florida and Georgia, the Carolinas. But from there, the spottings are less. Consistently seen across the globe, the orbs typically lack visible propulsion systems or control surfaces. What makes these orbs especially compelling isn't just how they appear, but where and how they operate. They are frequently observed in restricted airspaces near nuclear facilities and have even been tracked on radar or captured by high-resolution infrared system. According to Enigma, the former head of the AARO, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, presented a video of one such metallic sphere over the Middle East. The 24-second video was taken by MQ-9, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle, UAP, or drone, though it was determined to be a typical, quote, unresolved UAP. While AARO assesses the object in the clip is not exhibiting anomalous behavior, the objects remained unidentified, according to the report. Of the hundreds of reports of metallic orbs, 43% mentioned the appearance of light, 40% said the object flew very low, according to Enigma. Another 35% said the object flew rapidly, fast, or quick, and 38% reported the object was hovering. A common theory about the metallic orbs paints them as surveillance devices, whether deployed by terrestrial governments or by non-human intelligences, the report stated. Some skeptics argue metallic orbs may be misunderstood weather balloons. Optical illusions are rare atmospheric conditions like ball lightning. The report admits and others maintain that there are psychological manifestations projected by the human mind during altered states or high-stress moments. Despite official statements and competing theories, their origin and purpose remain unknown. Let's see here. Yes, they were. Brenda says, yes, they are going to do the invasion card. And Wendell says, I saw one of those in Dallas, Georgia in 1975. Brenda says, Wendell, they left you there. Chris, it takes 8,000 UFOs to finally reach the unnerving status for a Pentagon. How about tightening up these standards and looking for a strategy a little sooner? True. And Wendell says, I was thinking they were going to take me with them, but they didn't. Damn it. Yeah, Wendell. Maybe they probed you, though. And Wendell says, it sat in place for a week. Did you get a picture of this, Wendell? If it sat in place for a week, surely even a disc camera in that era, you should have been able to see it. I mean, good Lord. Just saying. All right, let's see what else we got in here. We got other kinds of trouble as we go on. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. A rare flesh-eating parasite is confirmed, and it's a concerning development. A flesh-eating parasite has infected a person from the U.S. in a rare and concerning event. The case involved a woman in the state of Maryland who had recently returned from Central America, where she was exposed to the New World screwworm. The patient has, quote, thankfully recovered. And the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has assured the public that the risk of further human spread is, quote, very low. Remain calm. The government says the risk is very low. That said, the parasite is worming its way northward and can pose a big threat to U.S. food security. Screwworm infections are caused by the larvae of screwworm flies, which look very similar to houseflies. These insects typically lay their maggots, not a MAGA, maggots in open wounds are around the navel or eye of a warm-blooded animal, and the young then feast on the flesh, digging deeper with every bite. Sounds yummy. Infectious disease specialist Daniel Griffin told CNN that the maggots turn living tissue into Swiss cheese. If untreated, the infections become fatal. The most common victims of screwworms are cattle, horse, and pigs, but they can also infect dogs, cats, and even humans. With the right treatment, survival is possible, but the worms act fast. In as little as a week, screwworm larvae can kill a mature cow. A potential outbreak in Texas, the largest cattle-producing state in the U.S., could alone cost roughly $1.8 billion, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Screwworm flies are so destructive to livestock in the 1950s, officials in the United States, Central America, and parts of the Caribbean tried to eradicate the pests. This involved releasing lab-bred sterile insects to interbreed with wild ones, and it largely worked. Interesting, in the 50s, they were modifying bugs. We've talked about that several times this week. The U.S. officially reported an endemic infection in 1982, while travelers returning to the country have sometime brought the worms back with them. The New World infection has recently reemerged in places it was largely eradicated, posing a risk to human health, food security, and the livelihoods of local ranchers. Since the Central American outbreak began in early of 2023, officials have reported hundreds of human cases in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and some of which have required life-saving treatment. If these worms hadn't been removed, they would have destroyed their brain, said Ricardo Zambrala, director of Nicaragua's Institute of Agricultural Protection and Health. The screwworm case in Maryland is an important reminder that those nations must work together to control the spread of dangerous infections. catching up in the chat here. Yuck. Yes, you're right. Yuck. Ugh. And Brenda says, I know a few screwworms. Chris says he's heard rumors screw words came from dildos thrown at sporting events, but he may have misread that. He may have. I don't know. It's possible, though. They could have flopped out on the field or court, whatever. Speaking of that, timely, Chris. Fans threatened to murder Red Sox pitcher's dog after a loss to the Yankees. A deranged fan threatened to kill the dog of Red Sox pitcher Dustin May in response to a social media post by the pitcher's wife. May's wife, Amelia, shared an Instagram story that contained a picture of the couple's dog, along with the message from an account called Dustin. Oh, hold on, I can't even read it. Dustin May will die, which read, I'll cook this dog for dinner. Wow. Seems like such a nice person. So he's going to cook the dog for dinner. The threatening note came after May allowed 5 runs in the Red Sox loss to the Yankees on August 24th. The menacing message towards May and his pet marks only the most recent example of disturbing trends in which Red Sox players have faced death threats or threats of harm after losses. Boston reliever Liam Hendricks and his wife received death threats after a bad outing against the Mets in May. While the passion of Red Sox fan is well known, Red starter Luis Diotto believes there's a different cause for the recent spate of threats. Gambling. Well, that's interesting. He raised the issue with the MLB, Rob Manfred, and spoke about it on an episode of the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast. I asked him about something that has been on my mind this year, and he's been a little worrisome to me with the rise of sports betting. The access that exists now with social media and everything. The threats when a player doesn't perform well, threats to their family, threats to their life, it's getting very tiring. I worry for guys that are maybe new to the league and aren't ready for something like that. May was a trade deadline acquisition from the Dodgers. His 4 last starts in Baltimore, he's 2 for 2 with a 4.5 ERA. Wow, that's crazy. It's just a game, people. It's just a game. It's kind of like people watching a TV show and going crazy, huh? Oh, my. Taylor Swift and a Tennessee professor? Wait, what is this? This comes to us from Prime Timer as I'm sliding out of my seat. Did a Tennessee professor cancel their class over Taylor Swift's engagement? All about the viral video. A Tennessee professor went viral for canceling class after Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's engagement. Well, he had a valid reason for that. You're paying for the higher education. The University of Tennessee associate professor recently captured global attention across social media with a playful response to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's engagement. The Lovebirds announced the Joyous Life update recently, and quite evidently, they broke the internet. Netizens haven't been able to calm down since then. The now viral professor joined the expanding list of excited fans in rejoicing the special moment. According to a report by Dexerto, advertising and PR associate Professor Matthew Pittman turned the celebrity news into an impromptu lesson in public relations. As the engagement announcement appeared on a classroom projector, Pittman dramatically wrapped up his lecture and announced that the scheduled biochemistry midterm was off. Wow, that's great. Nice of him. Although the video initially looked like a sudden class cancellation, it was later revealed to be a staged PR demonstration. The candid clip went viral quickly, further delighting viewers with Pittman's unique teaching approach. Everything we knew about the Tennessee professor canceling his class for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's engagement. The post alone garnered 30.5 million likes in just a day, sharing the news on the internet. As per Dexterto, it is now one of the 20 most liked posts on Instagram. In the viral video, with nearly 6 million views and 290K likes, Associate Professor Matthew Pittman can be seen conducting his widely discussed lecture. Amused by the buzz and the hype for the news, he showcased the engagement picture on a projector and surprised his class full of students. To their excitement to a notch above, he even told his students that their upcoming biochemistry midterm was officially called off. His statement surely transformed the class into a spontaneous celebration and cheers. The professor can be heard expressing, "We had a biochem midterm today, but Travis just got engaged due to this information. I can't focus. You all can't focus. Class is canceled. Get out of here. We need time to process this information." Tambaris School of AD and PR shared the video explaining the reason behind the fake cancellation of the biochemistry midterm. Later, he explained the stunt was intentionally crafted to demonstrate how online surfers respond to such significant pop culture moments. He reacted to the engagement news from an advertising perspective and a fan, elaborating, "I don't know how anybody could be expected to focus on schoolwork or anything work or career related right now. This is pretty big news. It's going to take a few days to process all of this." What the Sam hell? The associate professor noted the engagement's timing was strategic as it was right before the NFL season. Another key moment was when their engagement news was disclosed weeks after her record-breaking New Heights podcast appearance with Travis Kelce. She still hasn't accepted my invitation to come here. It was perfectly poised to capture interest. He added that the post had the potential to become one of the most shared social media posts ever within a single day. However, it ultimately fell short of that milestone. Praising the professor for his unique representation and showing the significance of pop culture, an Instagrammer commented, "This is so awesome. I'm a 1970s UT grad. Class is not quite this fun and exciting." Well, it was all a stunt. It was all a stunt. Kind of like Bigfoot, right? It was all a stunt. So, all right, one more and then we'll jump into what we normally do. And this one is for my long-term viewers. This may upset some people. Ooh, knocked the computer off the desk. Chris says, Wendell says, "No, I didn't have a camera. Some military jets finally came to check it out when I left. And the next day, the news said it was a weather balloon." There you go, Wendell. It was a weather balloon. And Chris says it reeks of, well, highlight it. This reeks of disgruntled sports better. Probably right. He says, "I think he had his eye on an attractive Swiftie in the class, and this move was just to score some points with her. His excuse sounds like bullshit." I agree, Chris. I agree. But they're not allowed to date their students. So, all right. So from the Miami Herald, this has been updated, but it's news for this weekend. Why is the famous Key West buoy closing, and what's taking its place? Well, any of my longtime viewers know my fascination with the Key West buoy. And in fact, during a hurricane show where we kind of went rogue, none of the guests showed up because of the weather, and we just went rogue. We had a great buoy moment. It's available on TikTok and on my shorts, so go check it out. Taking a selfie at the red, yellow, and black southernmost point marker is one of the most due things for Key West day trippers and tourists. But come August or September, it's going to be after this weekend, you'll be posing alongside a replica in a different location. That's because the landmark buoy will be out of commission. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with the original buoy. This isn't a repair of Hurricane Irma's lashing at the concrete marker that led to a month-long closing in September and October of 2017, so that the original artist Danny Acosta and Henry Del Val could do emergency repairs and repaint the battered buoy. No, it's none of that. I wish I had some of these great photos like this with it. But this is what happened to it after a hurricane. And Chris, that was one of the greatest days in buoy history. Yeah. And he says, I believe we need to leave that alone. Or Brenda says we need to leave that alone. It was battered after a hurricane, but it was repaired in 2017, and it's maintained every now and then. But there's going to be a replica buoy coming out after this holiday coming up. Was a work in progress. This is a shot of the replica buoy marker. It's inside a workspace in May, where the temporary buoy will sit at Duval Street Park, while the grounds where the original sits a block away undergoes repairs during the late summer, early fall. I got word that it was going to happen just after this weekend. The giant concrete buoy, which replaced a simple red sign at the site. Okay, hold on. We need to repeat that. The giant concrete buoy, which replaced a simple sign at the site in 1983, is fine after it spruced up nearly 8 years ago, but years of storms have undermined the existing southernmost plaza where the marker sits. So the United States' southernmost city has to repair the seawall, redo the roadway, and attend to other damage at the corner of South and Whitehead Streets, according to Key West spokesperson Allison Crean. That coming work will require the shutdown of the area for about a year, barring access to the existing buoy. The replica is being built and painted by Paul Cassidy and Richard Sarver of Key West Community Services Department. It's a smaller, but still taller than a person, Crean said. The ocean will still be visible, but the temporary location is further away from the ocean. Compose your camera shots just so, and your Instagram followers may not know the difference. So the temporary location, it's going to be moved about a block inland. It's going to be installed at the Duval Street Docket Park, 1400 Duval Street. It's a block away from the original buoy, which is 90 miles from Cuba. They ask if will Key West keep both buoys after the double this social media snaps. Says that remains to be seen. Once it's done, I'm sure the city will do something fun with it. So no word on if they're going to put a camera by it. So I hope that they have a camera nearby, because that made for some great moments. So it was a great day in buoy history. This is a dinosaur isn't falling for a fake replacement buoy. He is way too smart to fall for that. Well, Chris, after this weekend, we still have, a month and a half of hurricane season. And if they have a live camera there, we will make sure to be checking in to see if there's any dinosaurs washing ashore from the hurricane. That was a great show too. That was one of the ones where we were trying to end this show, and I was like, no, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, you ain't gonna believe this shit. And I was trying to get it up on screen before the dinosaur went away. Yeah, it was great. All right, so this is what we normally do. We normally ramble about the FEMA operations briefing. This one's dated Thursday, August 28th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. this morning, Eastern time. I think it was just me and Cheyenne, I believe, and we just died laughing. So things they are monitoring: hazards, heavy rain, flash flooding in the Central Plains to lower Mississippi Valley, fire weather in Washington, in the tropic. Well, Ferdinand, it's kind of gone, and disturbance 1 is still just kind of sitting there doing nothing, and that's the way we need it to stay. And out in the Pacific, Juliet's puttering away, and the other 3 disturbances, well, only one of them seems to have any potential for life to being a named storm. So we'll keep an eye on that. And we can see here in the map and grids, the Western Pacific looks pretty clear. The Central and Eastern Pacific, well, that one disturbance has got just a little bit of chance. It's got a chance. Don't say there's never a chance, but there's a chance that it could form into something. So we'll keep an eye on it. But even if it does, if it stays its current course, it probably will not be an issue. And looking at the Atlantic, we'll take a better look at this on the National Hurricane Center's page in a second. But even if it was to form a named storm, its current track, it shouldn't form much of a problem. So, all right. So looking at the national weather forecast, we can see spotty showers up in Washington all the way across the country to Alabama, and kind of splotchy in the center of the country. Colorado, you need to worry about some severe storms. and heavy flooding, as well as Kansas and Oklahoma. Later going into Louisiana, Mississippi, and then Alabama later in the week. Speaking of which, Friday, that's going to continue to drop to the south, and it's not going to affect Kansas so much, but Oklahoma and Texas, you're going to have to worry about it tomorrow. And in the Gulf of America around the panhandle of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, they can all anticipate some heavy rains in the Florida panhandle later in the week. That energy is going to continue to push to the south down through Texas into Mexico, where you can see some heavy rains and flooding. And Chris says, I think you may have even said there was a dinosaur before you pulled the camera up on screen, and we were all wondering what the hell you were talking about. Yes. It was a crazy show. I believe we might have all been enjoying a little bit of adult beverages that day. All right, so we look at the fire weather, and it's minuscule as far as size-wise, but there's still a potential, and that's from Seattle over to the west and back up to the Canadian line. We just need to keep an eye on that with these thunderstorms and any idiots with open flames, because it's a very dry area. Now, for the next couple days, they're talking about a heavy rainfall from the Four Corners state back up to Oklahoma, stretching across Texas. And Texas is going to have to worry about some severe hazardous heat down in deep South Texas, while the Panhandle is going to have to worry about some heavy rain from Louisiana, Mobile, Alabama, all the way across to Tallahassee down to Big Bend. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Space weather, they haven't updated this, but we are under an S1 storm, which is increased radiation or microwave. There's no blackouts or any changes to the aurora, but they now say with 3I Atlas approaching and it's negatively charged, it is half the size of our sun. Yes, it's half the size of our sun. And because of the density of the coma, which is the area surrounding it, they cannot tell what the center is. They do not know if it's carbon. They do not know if it's intellectual. They do not know. So because of its dense coma, due to it traveling at about 140,000 miles an hour. Denise says, I have to run. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Yes. Well, Denise, thank you. I'm glad you're here. And so we look at this and see the FEMA Common Operating Picture, 17 joint field offices, 58 major disasters, 7 emergency declarations. We're still repopulating 12 missions, 9 supported disasters, which means teams are on the ground, with 6 joint recovery offices. So, and a declaration request for Wisconsin was approved for severe storms, straight line winds, and flooding in early August. They have 12 others that are in the process. So we'll talk about them as they come up. All right, let's take a better look at the national weather, since that was a little bit dated, because we see here they do talk about the storms down in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas and Oklahoma being quite severe. So the heavy rains in southeast Colorado, and then the heavy rains from Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, down to Louisiana, part of Texas, where the heaviest parts are in those severe thunderstorms. Up in the northeast, looks as though from the northeast back down Boston, back over to the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, you can see some spotty showers. Florida, it just rains every day there, as well as the Panhandle. There's a chance of precipitation for some slight rain in Southern California. If y'all can hear all this noise behind me, they're just mowing the lawn and taking care of the church. So I think they may be mowing our lawn here too. So I think they do it all at once. All right, so tomorrow, those heavy rains are going to continue across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And then they're going to abandon Kansas and start moving southward and pretty much cover New Mexico and the Florida handle up there. So that is for tomorrow. Of course, we will update all this because we know that just from yesterday, the severe storm chance increased. That wasn't there yesterday. And then Day 3, which is Saturday. Oh, it's Friday Eve. I forgot to mention that. It's Friday Eve. I need Friday Eve badly. So spotty rains up in the Seattle area, in Washington, Olympia, back up in there in the Cascades. Hopefully they'll get some rain to take care of the fire hazards. And we look pretty much from Nebraska straight down through Texas. Chances of spotty showers all the way across the deep south, up the 95 coast, up the 95 highway, up Highway 95, all the way almost to Boston. Chances of storms, heavy rainfall on Saturday over the weekend. It's a holiday weekend, so may have some rain to deal with. Today, well, there's a slight chance, less than 2% chance of tornadic activity. It appears mostly to be in Oklahoma where those severe storms are. But remember, any storm has the capability, so have your weather radio ready. They're saying that we could have some high winds from this storm today in Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. So be on guard. It could happen, as well as there's a possibility, albeit slight, for hail in these storms. And Colorado, we don't want to forget mentioning that you have a chance for some wind and then hail as well later today. So I don't know what the hell I just did. And let's see, let's go back here. I think that's pretty much it for that one. Yes, it is. Let's check in and see what the commander-in-chief is doing today on his official schedule. I wish I could find an official schedule for the vice president, but I can't find one. So if anybody finds one and sees it posted, let me know. I would love to see it. So, all right. So we'll start off by going back in time to yesterday after we went off the air to see if anything happened. Well, apparently there was no shenanigans after the lunchtime meeting with him and Vice President Vance. So this morning, well, there was a normal in-pool call time of 9 a.m. 9:27, Tom Holman, he's back out there at the Sticks giving speeches this morning. 11 a.m., the president received his intelligence briefing. That checks because this report came out late this morning, the FEMA report. 11:01, White House press office, and they called a lid, meaning everybody's locked in, can't go out. And then at 1 o'clock, press briefing by White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. I'm assuming that's over by now. And at 3:30, the president will be signing executive orders. And I don't know what they are. Maybe we'll find out from WRC, who seems to have a way of keeping up with the president and what he's doing daily. So let's go over to WRC and check their live updates and see what they got here. All right. So the first thing is live updates. Lawyer for CDC head disputes her firing, saying she is still on the job. How do you get fired and say, no, I'm not leaving? What the hell? How do you do that? Suzanne Monarez, lawyer, pushed back on the White House insistence that she had been terminated as the director of the CDC. Only the president can fire her, the lawyer said. Russia had overnight strikes, were the most significant to hit Kyiv since Trump intensified his efforts to end the Kremlin's war. Among the dead were 4 children. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook overcame many obstacles before being appointed to the central bank's governing board. Her supporters expect her to keep fighting as Trump tries to remove her. She has sued to keep her position. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker told the AP that Chicago does not want or need military intervention to fight crime. All right, so the press secretary said 43 minutes ago that the White House was the one that fired the CDC director. It was President Trump. According to Carol Leavitt, she told reporters that Trump himself terminated the CDC director, Susan Monarez, after she refused Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy's request to resign. It was Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not in line with his mission, press secretary said this afternoon. The White House issued a statement last night saying Monarez has been terminated from her role after she had refused to resign under pressure. Leavitt's statement this afternoon came after pushback from her legal team, who said in a statement overnight that only the president, not cabinet members, has the authority to fire Senate-confirmed presidential employees. Oh, well, here we go. 1 hour ago, Trump will address the UN General Assembly next month. He'll travel to New York next month to address the UN, the White House said today. She said the president's speech will take place on September 23rd. He will arrive in the city the day before. White House list of Smithsonian exhibits it objects to. I don't understand why we have to do this. The White House released a list of Smithsonian exhibits and items it objects to. What it says is woke ideology. This comes on the heels of a letter from the White House sent to the Smithsonian announcing the eternal review of several museums. President Trump and the White House directed sharp criticism at the Smithsonian and its museum. Trump took to social media, writing in part, quote, "The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is and how bad slavery was." We need to just let that be. Democrat senators call for RFK Jr.'s firing over the CDC's attempted removal. Of course they do. Trump on sending the National Guard to Chicago, quote, "Stay tuned." Well, according to President Trump, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't want to ask me for help. Can this be possible? The people are desperate for me to stop the crime, something the Democrats aren't capable of doing, he wrote on a post in Truth Social. Stay tuned. He floated the idea of Chicago being one of the next cities he'd target in an effort to reduce crime. Pritzker, though, says he slammed the possibility, saying that Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. Mexico has suspended postal shipments to the U.S. over the latest tariff. CDC director, she's going to remain in the role, as she says, and so is federal Governor Lisa Cook. Rwanda says 7 deportees arrived from the U.S. in August under the agreement with Washington. Okay. Trump administration does try to fire her, apparently, but she's fighting back. Massive attack on Ukraine's capital kills at least 15 as Trump's peace talks stall. And let's see what else we got. Pritzker saying the National Guard's not needed. But what's the crop right there? It's just, I don't know. I don't live there, but asking for a friend. Whoa. All right. So, mystery. This is 5 minutes ago. Mystery surrounds $1.2 billion Army contract for a huge detention camp in Texas desert. When President Donald Trump's administration last month awarded a contract worth up to $1.2 billion to build and operate what becomes the nation's largest immigration detention complex, it didn't turn to a large government contractor or even a firm that specializes in private prisons. It handed the project on a military base to Acquisition Logics, a small business that has no listed experience running a correctional facility and had never won a federal contract worth more than $16 million. The company also lacks a functioning website and lists as its address a modest home in suburban Virginia owned by a 77-year-old retired Navy fighter. The mystery over the award only deepened last week when the new facility began to accept its first detainees. The Pentagon has refused to release the contract or explain why it selected Acquisition Logics over a dozen other bidders to build the massive tent camp at Fort Bliss in West Texas. At least one competitor has filed a complaint. The secretive and brisk contracting process is emblematic, experts said, of the government's broader rush to fulfill the Republican president's pledge to arrest and deport an estimated 10 million migrants living in the United States without permanent legal status. As part of that push, the government is turning increasingly to the military to handle the tasks that's traditionally been left to civilian agencies. Well, maybe the military's doing it better. Maybe this, I don't know. That's interesting. Chris says, ironic, one of the only larger things in Chicago, other than the sizable J.B. Pritzker, is a Trump building in a city that doesn't want him. I don't know if the city doesn't want him or not. I've seen mixed results. I've seen some say they do, some say they don't. So who knows? I don't think it would be a bad thing if we're serving the citizens. I mean, and if you think about trying to deport 10 million people, I don't even know that that's logical. And can it be done in 4 years? I don't think the answer to either of those is yes, but they're trying. So, all right. So here's the National Hurricane Center's look at the Atlantic. We see Ferdinand way up there. It's still just a pain in the butt churning away. Disturbance 1 down here. It's just starting to forecast as a tropical wave, or be forecasted as a tropical wave, and it has a 20% chance. So there's always a chance. I mean, isn't that what they say? There's always a chance. Central Pacific, you don't see any activity out there. That's good. In Eastern, I believe you'll see that Juliet's just turned out into nothing and teetered out. And we have this one, which has an 80% chance of forming in the next 7 days. Stay tuned on it. So there you go. There's your hurricane update. Oh, wrong button. Let's see what kind of weather warnings we have. All right. An LE marine statement. All right. What is that? This is for the Lake Erie coast. What is area effect? But what is it? Mariners can expect gusty winds up to 30 knots, higher waves, and lightning strikes. Okay. All right. So on Lake Erie, they're talking about higher winds. See, there's our test message in Maryland. Another marine warning, flood watch. Let's jump down here to the tornado warning in Flagler, Florida. That looks like it's just north of, what would that be? Cocoa, Edgewater. Yeah, in Cocoa, Cape Canaveral. It's just north of there. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Palm Coast, moving east at 10 miles an hour. Radar indicated rotation. Flying debris can be dangerous. Those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be damaged or destroyed. Damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles can occur. Tree damage is likely. The dangerous storm will be near Palm Coast and Bunnell around 2:40 Eastern, and Flagler Beach around 2:55. Other locations imparted by this tornadic thunderstorm include Beverly Beach. Take cover now. Move to a basement. Do they have basements in Florida? Or an interior room on the lowest floor of the sturdy structure. Avoid windows if you're outdoors in a mobile home or in a vehicle. Move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. That is in Florida. If we have a tornado warning, and it looks like they just updated it again. So, got 2 of them right now. So, Maryland, we see the test message. We always see the test message. All the marine weather statements. Flash flooding in Arkansas. Colorado, you have a special weather statement. It's significant storms. Idaho, the air quality still from yesterday is horrible from the smoke. We have more craft advisories along the waterways. Flood warnings in Minnesota. Arkansas, you have a severe thunderstorm there. And let's see, Florida, you have a severe, that one's the one capable of producing tornadic activity. Wind advisory in Alaska. And flood watch in Arizona, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. And Brenda says, Ross, I'll be flying around on my broom. Watch for me. Red flag warning in Washington. We talked about that. That's up there in the northwest section in the higher elevations of the Cascades. And chance of fire activity is increased. Please no open flames. And let's hope there are no thunderstorms. Flood warnings, all kinds of warnings and floods around Oklahoma, Arkansas. Beach hazard statement in Illinois. That's on the west bank of Lake Michigan. Remain out of the water to avoid dangerous swimming conditions. Do not venture onto piers. It could be threatening due to high wave action and dangerous currents on Lake Michigan beaches. All right, there you go. Go away. There we go. Go away. Flood warnings in Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Wisconsin. You have a frost advisory. Let's take a look at that. Wow, Wisconsin. It's a minor one, but temperatures below 33, 35 will result in some frost in Vilas County from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. tonight. Could form on sensitive outdoor vegetation, sensitive outdoor plants, may be killed if left uncovered. That's at the far northern section. Well, not the furthest section north. One of the further north counties in Wisconsin. Here we're sweating to death. New Mexico, well, we talked about that yesterday. That is probably for mud and rock slides. Beach hazard statement in Wisconsin. That's got to be along the Great Lakes. Puerto Rico, extreme heat warning. And what else do we have here? Flood warnings in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Beach hazard statements on the lakes. And Indiana, Michigan, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Indiana, Michigan, beach hazards and all kinds of beach hazards along waterways. Georgia, flood warning. South Carolina, flood warning. And we've talked about the flooding in Oklahoma, Arkansas. And it's just all going to be storming in the deep south later today. And I see lots of gale warnings and stuff for craft on waterways. So if you're on any waterway, you should have a NOAA weather radio and a marine radio capable of being able to summon help. So, all right, hydrological outlook for Anchorage. Rainfall, maybe 2 to 5 inches in higher terrains. Okay. And they're saying that there could be some flooding and some downstream river could be moving some rock slides, I guess. Yeah. All right. So that's their outlook in Alaska. All right. Let's get out of this because personally, I'd rather see it on a map. So let's zoom out here and take a look at the bigger picture. As soon as it draws, I pull myself back up in my chair. All right. So we see those storms right now. They're pretty much from Oklahoma down across Arkansas and Mississippi, stretching into Alabama. They are quite severe. So if you're in any of those areas, have your weather radio ready and be prepared. Down in Florida, we do see that small storm, and it does have a lot of energy to it. We'll take a look at the the lightning in just a second and see, but it's got a potent little kick to it. And you see, if we zoom in on it, it is purple right in the center. So if you're along that, what is it, the A1A 95 Route 1 corridor in that section of Florida, take cover. Take cover now because that's a pretty dangerous, tightly wound little cell. There's 2 or 3 back behind it. So we don't see much activity in the other parts of the South, but when we get up to the Ohio Valley coming down from the Great Lakes, as that moves from the northeast, we see from Cincinnati stretching all the way up to the Canadian border, a line of strong storms that are going to be going all the way to the east and out to sea. And some of them can be quite heavy later this afternoon, affecting Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, up in there. So be weather prepared for that. Let's go over here to the west and see what we have. And we see the fire warning, or red flag warnings. We see rain in the areas up in Victoria and Cascades up there in Vancouver. And there doesn't appear to be any lightning associated with those storms, which is good news. So Chris, I just caught that. Freezing in Wisconsin, hot as balls elsewhere. Yes, it is. It is hot as balls. Let's see. Some spotty showers across Idaho, Montana, down into Wyoming, just kind of spotty. Not a whole lot of organization except on the southern end of those towards Rapid City. But most of it is just spotty showers. Let's zoom out. We look up in Alaska. Well, Alaska, you're getting all kinds of rain up there, which is probably good for you this time of year. And some of it into the further northern portions is freezing precipitation. Let's jump down to Australia, and we see, well, what do we see? We see off really the coast of Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide. There's some cells that are a little powerful, but Adelaide is the one only seeing any lightning with that. We'll take a look on our lightning map here in just a minute, but it looks as though the rain is mostly out in the Gulf of Australia, or the Great Australian Bight. It's out there. So it doesn't appear that any of it is coming inland at this time, but Adelaide, if it does, you would be right in the crosshairs. Sydney, you have a strong cell off to your east. Keep an eye on that. Let's look at Futurecast and see what is the intensity of any of these rains. Well, currently we zoom in and we see in the U.S. the lower 48. See from Oklahoma down to, well, Oklahoma City, all the way down across Arkansas, Memphis, Mississippi, into Montgomery, Alabama. There's some heavy rains associated with that band. Down here in Florida, we see down Daytona Beach, that one cell has got an intense amount of precipitation to it. And now they're saying there's hail in it on the coastline. So if you're anywhere near St. Augustine, Flagler Beach, Daytona, north of Daytona Beach, they are now reporting along the I-1A1 corridor tornadic activity, including hail. So if you're in that area, seek cover now until this is all clear, goes out to sea. But that's a pretty intense little storm, and we can see hail on the radar, so that indicates that there's probably tornadic activity within it. So we jump down to Fort Lauderdale, and we see actually in the storms in Fort Lauderdale, they've got a lot of intensity to them, could have some tornadic activity, because we're seeing hail in Fort Lauderdale, Hilwea, down to Homestead almost. So if you're in any of those areas, be prepared. Let's see. Bonita Springs, there's a small cell there that has some potential to it. And down in South Florida, those cells, some of them are wound pretty tight and are showing some rotation. So anticipate there's probably going to be some warnings coming out from NOAA here soon, if they're not already. We're off of that right now. So tune into your weather radio to make sure. All right, let's zoom out and check down on our friends down under, so we don't forget them. And we see, should have just zoomed out. We see most of the storm is off the coast, and the heaviest rain will come into Port Lincoln, Adelaide. So those areas will be the only ones affected. Pretty much in the bay right there, it's going to come up, it looks inland, and go towards Adelaide, Gawler, Clare, and Wallaroo. So look for those areas later. If you have your meteorological radio, I think they have such a thing in Australia, please be weather aware. All right, let's look at the electrical activity in these storms. Let's first jump down here to Florida and see what we got, since that one is sitting off of the beach, and see what kind of power it has. And it doesn't have as much electrical activity as I thought, but from Flagler Beach all the way up to almost St. Augustine, along 95, Route 1, A1A, in the entire east section of I-95 back over to the Atlantic, that's a strong cell with lots of electrical activity. We move down and see a similar cell in Melbourne, and they're all moving to the east slowly, about 10 miles an hour. And finally, when we get down to the deep southern Florida, out towards Boca, in that area, we see that storm is starting to have some power as well. I see very little activity for our friends out in Key West, so that's good news. Zoom out and go back up to the lower 48 and see what we have over here. Mississippi and Hattiesburg, just north of the city. There's a pretty decent sized cell there. Baton Rouge, Beaumont. As always, you guys are getting some type of storm. And jump up here to the north because I saw that one coming across Lake Erie into Buffalo. It had a little bit of power, but it looks like it's going to stay to the north. Maybe Youngstown, Ohio will be the next place to see electrical activity from it. And we talked about this stretch right here. This goes from north of Dallas all the way over to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, almost Memphis, actually. But the center of the storm is really to the northeast of Dallas. We see the area affected mostly as Hugo. That's a pretty tightly wound storm as well. And we'll zoom out, and I think that was pretty much it for the lower 48. I don't spy anything up in Alaska. Let's go down here to our friends down under and see, well, that storm, as anticipated, sitting off of Adelaide, does have a little bit of electrical activity around Kangaroo Island, but there's not a lot of electrical activity to it, so there's no formation. So it just appears to be rain showers. But don't take that as solid advice. You should always have your radio prepared to listen to the meteorologist and find out the latest update. We look and see if there's any power outages in the U.S., and we see that, well, Texas has 8,484 people without power. California has 5,849, while Virginia has 5,709. Florida has 5,599, and Colorado has 4,170 people without power. You can find that by going to poweroutages.us and look at your state. All right, so we're going to zoom out here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get some forecasts because we're running over, so we're going to have to get out of here soon. Let's look at some forecasts. Let's jump up to Boston real quick and see what we got up there. Boston, we're going to have a cloudy day, high of 75 tomorrow. That rain's moving in. Your high is going to be in the 70s all week. It'll clear up after Friday, and you'll have a mostly cloudy weekend. Washington, D.C., you can expect to have a high of almost 80, 78 cloudy skies. Then it clears up. It's sunny all the way through in the 80s until the first of the week. Jacksonville, well, you probably can anticipate, or you can anticipate a high of 85, cloudy, but then the rain's going to move in and soak you through the weekend. So if you have any beach plans down there around the beach, now you know it'll be rainy. Tampa, you can anticipate highs around 90. That's going to be one of the hot spots. Partly cloudy, and it's going to be sunny Friday, Saturday. A little rain on Sunday, cooling off only slightly to the low 80s. Let's see if we can get a report for my favorite place down here. There we go. Key West. Key West, if you're planning on going to Key West this weekend, you can anticipate, it's a holiday weekend here in the States, you can anticipate high of 87 today and sunny. Friday and Saturday, it'll be a bit rainy, but never fear. Being in Key West during the rain is no big deal. It'll only cool you off to the mid 80s, and the rest of the weekend, Sunday, the rest of the work weekend for those on holiday will be partly cloudy in the mid 80s. If you're planning on going to the Gulf of the Gulf of America for your vacation, let's check some temperatures and forecasts there. See what's happening up here in Pensacola. If you want to go down to Pensacola Beach, one of the purest white beaches in the country, your high is going to be around 87, partly cloudy. Friday, it's going to be cloudy with a high of 82. Well, then Saturday is going to be rainy. It's only going to cool it off to the mid 80s. And Sunday, it'll be clear. But Monday, the rain will return. It's not uncommon in the Gulf of America to have rain fairly frequently. So just go prepared and you shall be okay. We'll jump up here to Atlanta and see what their forecast is. Atlanta, well, you're going to have a high of 79, cloudy. Tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy still, high in the 80s. Saturday, you can anticipate some rain with it cooling off to the 70s. Monday, it'll be rainy as well. So there you go. Here in Knoxville, well, it's right now 102 degrees. No, I'm kidding. High of 77, cloudy skies, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can anticipate sunny skies with highs in the upper 80s. Monday, for the last day of the holiday, it's going to drop to the high 80s or low 80s and some rainfall. Up in Chicago, well, let's go to Louisville first before we get to Chicago. Louisville, you can anticipate a high of 80. It's going to be sunny. And the rest of the week, it's going to be clear. And you're only going to make it to the low 80s. So good for you. That cold front's pushing down, but it ain't quite there yet. Chicago, what do we got for you? Did I tell New York by the weather? It's not golf, it's Gulf. And can you tell me a difference enunciating that window? Golf and Gulf? Golf and Gulf. I don't know, Wendell. Chicago, today is going to be a high of 73, cloudy skies. It's going to be cloudy tomorrow. The high is 64, cooling off a bit for you, but then heat's going to return back up to the 70s by Monday. I don't know if I did New York or not. For my New York listeners, let's jump back over it in case I missed it. High of 77, cloudy skies. Over the weekend, it's going to be highs in the high 70s, low 80s. Saturday, Sunday will be the clearest, sunniest days. And Dallas, Dallas right now, you are warm. You can see that Dallas is going to have a high of 97, cloudy skies. It's going to start to cool off to the upper 80s. But Sunday is going to bring some rain and the heat only to return back in Monday. Monday for the sun to return, high of 93. Wendell, you distracted me. I said golf. Gulf of America. I'm playing golf. Gulf of America, I'm playing golf. Is that better, Wendell? I don't know. I'm tired, Wendell. Leave me alone. Right now, the hottest thing on the map appears to be Phoenix at 100 degrees. Holy cow. So we can see in Phoenix, high today is 103, but it gets warmer. Saturday, 107. Sunday, 109. You'll cool off slightly to 107 again on Monday. No rain is forecast and very few clouds are forecast. So you're going to have some hot days still in Phoenix. Let's jump down to our friends down under since we want to make sure they have the most accurate information. Let me switch this so that I don't freak anybody out, including myself. We'll switch this to Celsius so we can see what the correct temperatures are. Close. There we go. And we'll start down in Adelaide, and we see that it is currently around 12 Celsius. That is your high today. Windy over the weekend, cloudy. Your high is only going to stay in the upper teens. So Melbourne, well, you're a little chilly right now, Melbourne, but you're going to warm up to 14. You're going to have to endure the rain today for a partly cloudy weekend. The high is going to be in the upper teens. Tuesday's going to be the next warmest day where it's clear and sunny for you at 17. Sydney, we see that you're going to have a high of 20 today. Sunny skies. Tomorrow's going to be windy, 16. But the rest of the weekend looks sunny all the way back to the work week where it'll be in the low 20s Celsius. Brisbane, you can anticipate today 24 is your high, 24 Celsius. Sunny skies tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. Your high is only going to be in the low 20s. Monday, the rain returns, but it stays pretty consistent at the 20s for you all. For y'all. How about that? For y'all. Can I say y'all and anybody know what the hell I mean? They already probably think this guy can't talk. So, all right, Darwin, you got a high of 31 today. Cloudy skies. And it's going to stay in the low 30s for the rest of the week into the first of the week. Broome, we're looking at high today around 29. That's pretty much going to be your high, but sunny for the rest of the week into your work week. All right, I think we got everybody there with weather. Let's take a quick gander with the rest of the stuff because we're running out of time. There's the heat risk, and we see where we talked about the heat warnings. Deep Texas, pretty much all of Texas and Florida are code orange. Please wear sunscreen, stay hydrated, take breaks, and do not get overheated. And I read an article just last night about people that got into hot tubs in this weather and suffered from hyperthermia, which is where your body gets too hot, and they were actually unable to physically move and get out of the hot tub. So if you do decide to go to the beach and go to a pool and then go to a hot tub, take breaks. Do not overexert yourself because your body can become quickly hyperthermic, too hot, and incapacitate you where you could collapse, sinking into the hot tub and therefore drowning. So, all right, looking at the AI wind, we see pretty much it has stayed for the past couple of days in the lower 48, relatively wind free. So it doesn't appear to be any significant wind or breezes across the country, minus the tornadic activity with the storms down in Florida. Jump over to Australia and look at their wind. And, well, it looks to be a pretty breezy day in Melbourne, Sydney, and what is Alice Springs down there. So it looks to be on the southern and the western side of the country. It's going to be fairly breezy. Southern and western side will be the breeziest sections of the country right now. All right, let's jump out of this real quick because we're running out of time, and we'll see. We talked about the space weather. We're at an R1, which is a minor for radio blackouts. It's a small solar storm. As 3I Atlas gets closer, these numbers are going to kind of get a little wonky, so let's keep an eye on that. It's anticipated to get close to the Earth at around October 29th on its closest pass. Currently, there are no tsunami warnings, advisories, watches, or threats. That's always good news. And we look at air quality. We talked about Idaho. Idaho, you're in the bullseye. Down in San Francisco, northern Los Angeles, you are code purple. So there are very few splotchy sections, and it's probably due to the smoke in the south from the fires where it's a code yellow, but it's significantly very bad air in Los Angeles and in Idaho. Jump over here and look at the fires real quick. And we see there's one down there that's popped up we hadn't seen before in Centro, 929 acres. And they're working to contain that in Texas. Then going back to the west, pretty much for the Rocky Mountain Divide, over to the west, spotty fires. The areas where they were concerned about lightning starting, hopefully that will stay and not happen. And we see these other fires. Let's look at the air quality from the smoke as it moves. And we see, well, pretty much the south has got a hazy, sunny day stretching down into northern Florida, back up the Atlantic seaboard. It's going to be on the Atlantic side. It's going to be in the Gulf, Wendell, in the Gulf. Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, up in the Great Lakes region, some hazy smoke coming down from Canada and from the fires on the west, wafting over towards the Rockies. Can anticipate higher elevations in Wyoming, having some air quality issues. It looks like Canada is burning. You are correct, Wendell. I didn't comment on that, but fires in Canada have been raging for quite some time. So, all right, we'll look here, and we talked about we talked about this. If we see this the south is up for a week and the week after for the waters to warm up, and any of these waves coming off to have the potential to form a tropical storm because they will no longer be inhibited by the dust coming off of Africa. Look over to U.S. and we see, as we talked about, fairly wind-free day in the country, but the air quality due to the smoke and dust is, well, pretty poor through most parts of the country. Jump to Australia and get out of here because we're time. Australia, your air quality looks pretty good, and the only smoke is coming from fires up in, but it's mainly staying off to the coast and to the northern eastern coast as well. So that looks pretty good. Oh, well, it just changed, but all right. Global seismic activity for today is reported to be moderate, and no, I don't want to. Maybe later. I wanted to see the chart where they say that there's a summary of possible earthquakes. 524 yesterday in the past 24 hours. Wow, that's a lot of shaking. But it appears today to be a moderate day for seismic activity. And we'll take a look at the most recent earthquake was in Turkey. And we scroll back. That was an hour ago. And we scroll back in time, and I don't see any affecting any of our normal viewing audience. So that's good news. We can hope that it stays that way. Volcanic activity, well, Kilauea, well, guess what? You are going to be a orange. Shishidan, you're a code yellow, and a Great Sitkin volcano, you are code orange as well. And we look at the disaster alerts. There's all kinds of activity there. All right, let's get out of here because we are about to hit the 2-hour mark. And I try to stay with the 2 hours so that the radio stations can get lined up and we don't have a problem with them trying to fill 28 minutes worth of some type of programming when we left. All right, so we're looking at the military aircraft. Now looking to see if we see anything interesting along the coast. Most of this up in New York is probably due to Homeland. And let's see. I don't see any, well, as of yet, I don't see any tankers out. Or P8, yeah, that's not a tanker. I don't, so it appears that most of, no, there's a tanker. It's circling from Wichita back over to St. Louis. So it's up there fueling some planes. So that means we do have fighters in the air checking things out. Now remember, just because they're in that circle space don't necessarily mean that's where the fighter jets are, because they do not have to identify. This is a dignitary coming out of Texas. Is that the VP? I'm not sure. It probably isn't a VP because it doesn't look like there's enough planes around it. So it's probably a high-level dignitary. All right, there's another tanker flying from over to the west. And that's just, I don't see any P8s going, oh, no, take that back. From Seattle down to, it appears, the Oregon line. P8s are up and looking for something. So they are in the air. Let's go up real quick to Alaska. Do we see anything up here? Yeah, probably not. That's just a air flight transporting something. Well, that one's way north. Where did that one come from? Oh, that one come from Canada, from the Royal Canadian Air Force. That is just a Globemaster. So it's moving equipment or people coming from way north up there into I guess that would be way north into deep Greenland. It's way up there. Wow. Okay. All right. That was way up there. All right. And we have we have another tanker here over looking towards Norge between, really between Greenland and Iceland, back over towards, I guess that would be, is that, no, it's not, yeah, well, it could be considered, or Ireland. So it's out there. Look, it's circling. So if it's circling, there's some fighter jets up patrolling. C-17. I don't see any of the ones they talked about yesterday in the news article were the P-8s, but that could have been a couple days old because they don't like to tell all their tales. So, and what do we have there? Nope, that's just that's Italian Air Force. All right, let's get out of here. I've talked your guys' ears off. I'll be back tonight to do the big chat. We'll be here at 10 p.m. tonight after the live eviction. We're following the U.S. version of CBS Big Brother. There should be something tonight where we talk about Cowboy Riley. We'll have some information about him if you're interested. So. Wendell says, what about shaky ground? Well, we're at a moderate day today, Wendell. We're at a moderate seismic activity level today, according to the experts. So had some 500 earthquakes in the past 24 hours. So take that for what you want. All right. So we go out of here looking at Bitdefender. We see the orange are infections and the red are attacks. The white are spam. So it looks as though most of them are coming from Asia, back over into central U.S. and then rolling around to the eastern seaboard and then finally going out towards the west. So keep an eye on your computers. Don't click any links. Don't open any friend requests from me because I'm probably not going to be your friend. But you can tune in tonight. 10 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be covering CBS's Big Brother. Harley and I are going to be talking about the live eviction tonight and see who's going to do the blockbuster, who's going to be evicted, and what's going to happen from there, because I'm sure there's going to be a twist, probably a double eviction coming up. So we're looking forward to that. I want to thank everybody at Yerg's Radio. Thank everybody at Dare Talk Media, Radio X, and all my listeners in Australia. Thank you for allowing me to tickle your ears and today lethargically mumble into your speakers. So everybody have a great day. I'll be back tonight doing the Big Brother show. I hope to see and hear you there. Everybody have a great day. Sportcat, well, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'll see y'all tonight. I got to go find some caffeine.